Okay, so let's get this started. We're gonna do an oil filter housing gasket today. First thing you want to do, come over here and disconnect your battery. Your next step is to remove your air box. What you do is you have 4 clips, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You take those, unclip that, and that's the top of your air box. Then you disconnect your MAF sensor and pull that out of the way. Then there are 2 more holders on the right side of the air box, this thing and that thing. Just loosen it up, it slips out of the brackets right here. This is where we're going to be working in. This is your trouble spot, and to get to there you're going to have to remove this alternator. So your next step is to pop off these 2 covers on your pulleys. As you can see, the bottom one right there, that's going to be your tensioner pulley, and this one is just your idler pulley. What you want to do is, there's a 16mm bolt on the tensioner. You want to turn it left from when you're facing the car. Turn it left, and that loosens up these belts so you can get the belt off. Okay, as you can see, the belt's off. This is your idler or alternator with its pulley, and there's your idler right there, free of nothing. So next you want to go back here. Sorry, the lighting's pretty poor. I'm using my little headlight to shine everything. You want to go in the back, rubber cover right there. You want to remove the 2 leads to the alternator, and then you want to unbolt the alternator with the 2 screws. Hold on, let me get the light again. One right there, and one right up top here. Okay, so back there, it's really tight, but it's a 13 and a 10, like they said. Then what you want to do next is remove your idler. It's another 16mm, and it used to be right there on the alternator. Let me get the light. Yeah, that little like gap right there you see, that's where the idler used to be. And you remove this and put this in a safe spot. That's how it looks. There's a cover, there's the bearing. That's why you have the those things to cover it up. It's a dust shield. Next you want to remove this bolt, and there's one underneath right there, and then your alternator is out. So the alternator is also a 16mm up top right here where my finger is, there, and also down here. It might be extremely tight, so I used 2 wrenches, and I basically double wrenched it, which is basically you hook one on down there, and you hook this one on like this. I'll show you where you align it like this, and then now when you do it, you have a lot of leverage because you basically doubled up your wrench length. So that's how you get the alternator ones loose. It's very tight down there, so you can't really get a half-inch drive breaker bar. So the top alternator bolt, that won't have a problem coming out. That slides right out. But with the bottom one, you will find that it's going to hit your power steering reservoir. So what you have to do is remove the 2 bolts holding the reservoir and just tilt it out of the way, because once that happens, you can shimmy your bolt out. These 2 bolts holding on the reservoir are 10mm. So this is your alternator removed. Let's look at the back first. Those are the 13mm and the 10mm terminals that you have to take off. And then when you look at here, it's going to be a little tough to slip it off because it's a slip fitting on this and this. It's really tight. So what you do is take a little screwdriver and you pry along the edges here, and it just slips out. You don't want to be too rough because you don't want to break the housing, but you still have to use some force. When you reinstall, I'm guessing you have to take a little hammer and push these pins out a little, and when you reinstall, of course, this is going to tighten back down into a press fit. Your next step, once you have everything removed, is you're doing the housing, or the cradle, which is basically you remove your tensioner, which is this thing right here. That's is what you use to take the belt off. Then there's 4 more bolts and a few more around here. That's what you want to take off. So everything, those 4 bolts up there, and also there's going to be one way down here, if I can show it on film. That one right there, it's between your big pulleys and your idlers right there. Yep, that one's a pain to get to, and the only way I got to it was using a normal wrench. I could not use a ratchet. Once that's out, you pull it out and you tie this cradle out of the way. This cradle, because your power steering pump right there is connected to it, so you really can't do anything else. Okay, so I've literally bungeed this whole cradle out of the way, and well, this is what you've been working towards the entire time. And as you can see, it's very wet. Just to show you how wet, I pulled out that last bolt. Yes, it is soaked in oil. So it's a good reason that that thing's been leaking, and it's been leaking for quite some time. So your first step right now is to clean it off. Then there are 6 bolts, 2 in the middle and then 2 on the bottom. Space is pretty tight, but you should be able to get into it just fine. Once that's done, I'll show you what the gasket and the insides look like. Of course, your next step is to remove the oil filter. I'm taking a little rag to soak it up. 6 bolts, they're 10 millimeters. They're actually easy to get to, and they're pretty easy to break loose. There's the oil pressure switch. What you do is press down on the middle clip and pull back. That reveals your oil switch right there, and now that's loose. Take out all 6 bolts. I've broken them loose, and then everything should come out. Okay, so there you go. Up on top is the bush right there. There's the rest of the gasket. You can see that I didn't lose much oil because the oil pan is below this oil filter, but you can clearly see that the bush is pretty filthy, and it just wasn't really sealing up well. Here's my oil filter. As you can see, this whole thing is just very dirty, especially around the bush. And when my gasket came out, it kind of flaked off into a million different pieces. So, well, this should be the end of this video. All you have to do is reassemble everything, which is the reverse of disassembly. Very easy, very straightforward. There's nothing special about it. So, thanks for watching, guys, and enjoy.